And if you could just introduce yourself.
I play keyboards in Alice.
My name is Anna Maria, and I am the founder and vocalist in the band Vajra.
What was the initial start?
Yeah, so we all have pretty storied histories.
I was just bored during COVID. Did a little demo, put it out, and it was pretty well received by the community. And
always had a thing for horror punk and stuff.
Something that started with me and a laptop during quarantine, and just like, oh yeah, you know, all those times I said, if only I didn't have to work my job all the time, and now it's like I could have time to do that. Well, now this is that.
All right. And if you could introduce yourself for the fine folks at home, I'd really appreciate that.
I am Patient Zero from the band The Night of Living Deadbeats. Hello.
Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for being on our show. I really appreciate it. So let's talk about your band. How did this thing all start? Like, what's the history behind it? And what motivated you to get going in this kind of music?
To be honest, it started around about 2004. I was doing it by myself. I just wanted to do something that, I guess, to prove to myself that I could do it, you know, and that's kind of why I started. Plus, I first started this band to do it for like animal charities and stuff like that. So I was like, I can do something that's like a good thing for me as an output, but also do it as for a good reason. And yeah, it just progressed from there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I actually made a fair bit of money for it too, so I'm really quite proud of that.
So what causes you? I know you said animal causes, right? But what causes specifically were the motivating factor?
Definitely, and so we have a rescue in Queensland, and it's called Staffy and Am Rescue, and I have a pit bull, so American Staffy, as they like to say here, but I just love him to bits. My dog, he's amazing. The breed gets a very bad stigma for no reason, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do something I want to do to kind of like push it in a positive direction. And it does, man. Like, I work in a pet store, for example, and like they actually came into our store, and I bought like everything I could. Like, everything I could. I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to support you guys. I actually do support you guys outside of work. And they're like, oh, whoa. They wanted to hear the band and stuff like that as well. I think they're a little thrown back by the band, but they were good. They were happy for the cause.
For sure,
But, yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to say, like, I really enjoy the music. I'm not sure if you get this comparison a lot, but you guys sound to me like a little bit like Wednesday 13, but not completely. You definitely have your own kind of spin on it. I think that's kind of coming from the vocals, but like instrumentally, yeah, you guys kind of do still have like a similar sound there, but it's definitely very unique and you. It's not like a direct rip off or copy, which I really appreciate because that's hard to do, you know, when you're taking influences from different bands.
Yeah, actually, you're pretty much right. The actual idea of doing the band was, of course, like having that Wednesday influence. Like, I can't really help how I sound. I'm naturally better at doing like a fry than like lows and stuff like that. And I've always been into more like rock and punk and stuff like that. So I got my two influences from FDQ, so Frankenstein Drag Queens from Planet 13, and like they're one of my favorite bands of all time, hands down. And the Misfits, the original Misfits. I use the simplistic kind of riffs and style and like structure as like old school Misfits, and a lot of like FDQ's kind of like catchiness, as well. Like, and then I kind of like blended other things with it, like because I love my metal and stuff like that, so I kind of like made a heavier, nicer tone for me, and did that. So yeah, that's how it kind of came apart, like, or came together, should I say. But yeah,
that's rad. That's rad.
Glad you dig it too. Like, it's not everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah, that is true. But I think that's actually changing and kind of shifting lately. I think I think at least here in America, the focus on like horror being this like weird, obscure thing it's still there, but like it's shifting more into the mainstream consciousness. I mean, there's bands like Ice Nine Kills and Avenged Sevenfold just like yesterday or the day before did a Misfits cover, and Green Day's last music video was zombie apocalypse like themed. So I mean, think
Yeah,
what you want about Green Day, but like the fact that they're doing a zombie themed music video, that's like gonna shift the culture over no matter how you look at it. So I don't
that's
know.
actually cool. I didn't know that Green Day did a horror themed kind of thing, you know? Like that's actually really cool because you know they're massive. So and
Oh yeah,
everybody
yeah,
knows Green Day. So
for
and
sure.
especially because they're punk. Now if they could just make it like a horror punk song, man, could you
Yeah.
imagine how good that would be?
Just
And like
one, guys, just
everyone
one.
just one even, yeah. But then it would blow up, I feel, and everyone would be like, whoa, you know,
Yeah.
Green Day's got horror punk like roots in their body, like, you know, they can do it
Mhm.
too. Like it'd
For
be
sure.
awesome. I'd be
Yeah,
down to
yeah.
do that.
I'm I'm a big fan of like a lot of different kind of music genres, whether it's pop music or whether it's like, extreme industrial or heavy metal or anything like that in between. And like, so whenever I always keep like an eye on culture and like see where like these different things are shifting in these different trends. And
Yeah,
not that that should matter as an artist, like make the music you're going to make, but it's just interesting like seeing how things shift over time and how bands like Green Day, because they, like you said, they're huge, and that would be huge for everyone in darker alternative scenes, whether that's goth music or whether that's industrial or horror punk, like like all of the bands that I've been interviewing on here. And I don't know, I just think that's really cool that um I'm happy that like people are happy that this is being embraced and not just like, oh, freaking out, because I remember growing up in the 90s, like everyone was like, oh, it's gonna be mainstream and they're gonna ruin it, and it's like, no, forget that. Like we've been working hard, we want eyes on us.
yeah, yeah, man. I agree. It'd honestly be really cool. Like it also would push other bands out there too that are like actually killing it. Like I know that like bands like Calabrese and all that, they get like they're pretty well known in the thing, but they deserve that. Like
Yeah,
they're
oh
actually a
yeah.
solid band, and like I love those guys. They're awesome. And like even 5 Cent Freak Show, they're really good. That'd be awesome to see them get more like, you know,
Hmm.
mainstream kind of like push. Even
Oh,
though
for
that's
sure.
probably I'm not too sure if that's what they want, but I feel like they deserve that kind of push. You know, there's a lot of horror punk bands out there that actually deserve more recognition than they get.
Oh
And
yeah.
even when they get it, like they deserve more, I feel, because they're that
Hmm.
good.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh yeah. No, I honestly don't know how Nikki feels about that. We had them on the show a couple
Mm.
episodes ago, and that's a question next time I talk to him I'll have to bring up. But like I don't think he would shy away from it. That he's been working hard for a long time, and now he's like also another guitarist in the band's Evelyn Casket, and they're killing
Yes,
it. And
they're
and
awesome
like
too, man. Love them.
yeah, yeah. I think I genuinely don't know how they would feel about that, but I know that as long as they're happy and they're writing the music they want, that's what's important. And like however this cultural shift works one way or the other, it's irrelevant, but like it would be cool to start seeing like more eyes come in on the scene itself. However
Yeah,
that happens. So
then they can push all the horror out on people. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
That's what I want. Like, I want to see more bands doing this kind of stuff. I don't know. I'm so used to seeing like punk bands in Australia, anyways. Like, they're very straight to the point punk, like very old school punk. So it's cool when we like go up on stage with them because afterwards people will be like, oh, that was different. That was really cool. You know, you're bringing back
Mhm.
something here. And I like that because we then stand out. And I'm like, okay, so we're standing out, you know, compared to all these really good punk bands. I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, we're doing something right. You know, they're enjoying it. It's like bringing Halloween around every day of the year, every time we do a show, and I love that.
So what's the scene like in Australia? Like what's the environment like there? You said that it was predominantly like straight ahead punk, but like what are what are bands in the area that you would either say are close, or are you really like the one?
No, so we have more like rockabilly and like psychobilly kind of bands
okay.
here. But there's really only a couple. Like we're probably more the only horror punk band that I know.
Mhm.
But there's like the Crypt Daddies. My good friend Matt, he's the drummer of Crypt Daddies. He's a really good dude. They're actually a really good band. They actually just brought out their EP, so it should hopefully it's on Spotify. I haven't asked yet, but if they did an EP launch just last week, I'm sure it'll be on there soon. They're a really good band. I would say Terror Parade are kind of horror, but I'm they're more like a metal kind of band than punk. Like our scene's very weird for me anyways. Like I love my metal, I really do, but it's predominantly metal. There's more like extreme kind of death metal kind of bands and like deathcore bands here. So it's really hard to try and fit in
Mm.
when we're so different.
Yeah.
But in saying that, like the next album's going to be a lot heavier. Like I kind of teased with the song Possessed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to bring that one out because I wanted to bring it out early because the new Exorcist movie Believer was coming out, and I was like, yeah, I gotta like kind of push it beforehand. So like when people come to our show and they hear it, they're gonna want to kind of like mix the two together. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's super exciting. And yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say like Possessed does seem like an evolution of the sound that you guys have been going for, and it noticeably like more metal influenced, not necessarily like I wouldn't say it's like super hardcore metal, but like you can hear it in the drums, you can hear it in the guitar, and like it's a fusion of the two, but not metalcore. like like you
Yeah.
know yeah.
Yeah.
Which
I
nothing
think
wrong with metalcore, but like it's cool seeing like different ways of doing it, you know?
yeah. Well, my drummer, like Sam Hain, he is a massive metalhead. Like
Mm,
he's into like Nile and
yeah.
Cannibal Corpse and those extreme metal bands. So I'm kind of like, because I did the first album basically on my own. He just put his flair on the drums,
Hmm.
and so I kind of like got to put me out there a little bit on my preferences, and now I'm kind of giving him more parts to add.
Mm.
And like letting them have more of the reins as well. So it's kind of nice. I don't have to do as much.
I can definitely relate to that. I'm an amateur songwriter myself, and so like when I'm sitting down to write my own, stuff like that, I'm always like, oh, I wish I had a group of guys I was working with right now.
Man, anybody who does it by themselves, I give them props because it's really hard work.
For sure.
It is actually really, really hard. And especially like when you don't have anybody to bounce your ideas off, or
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you don't know if that riff was good, or you kind of just throwing yourself in the middle of the ocean with it and hoping that someone will like it, you
For
know.
sure.
But I realistically, how I did it was I was like, I don't give a shit if people. Sorry if I can swear. I don't know if I can swear, but I didn't really care if people didn't like it. I kind of did it to prove to myself I could do it. So I didn't really care about any of that. So when people did say they liked it, I was like, oh, cool, thank you. Like, I'm glad. Like,
Yeah.
I kind of did it for me in a selfish
Yeah.
way. Like,
Yeah.
I did what I wanted to.
Then that,
So
that's how it should be. Like you wrote the music you wanted and it served the purpose that you wanted. And like now that you've got the band together and you're working together communally, like I think that's cool. It's like it's a cool progression not only for like you as an artist, but for like your sound as a whole is to like incorporate these different elements and learning to work together. We talked a little bit about the history, and we've talked a little bit about your songs. What when you're writing songs specifically, whether it's in the group setting now or whether it was before, what are the things that inspire you? Let's start with the instrumentation. What are the things that inspire you when you're coming up with music? Like, how does the writing process start?
so usually I'll just like I'm pretty simplistic, start off with like normal power chords and just kind of try and find something that matches together and something that I can, because I usually write beforehand as well. So I'll try and sing and play so that I know that I'm going to be able to play these songs later without a massive struggle. And I usually really keep it simple, like three to four chords, and then 4 and 4 bars. Like it's really quite simplistic. Like I try not to overthink it because it's so easy to overthink when you're making music, and then you'll just start like going too much and be like, oh, I can't play that live, or I can't sing like that, you know? So I try to really make it simple and catchy. That's like my main goal.
Okay.
And kind of related because like my whole life's revolves around horror and horror movies and stuff. So it's kind of one of those things. I think every horror band has, you know, they're interested in that horror. It's their life, and they just kind of like go with that because that's what we know.
For sure, for sure. So how would you say that horror has affected the way you write, like your instrumentation?
See, the first album, I kind of wanted it to be more happy, like instrumentally, like on the high end of like, you know, and then have that overtone of lyrics that are like weird and creepy and stuff like that. But now I'm kind of writing guitar to a point where I'm like, I want it to sound dark. I want it to sound evil. I wanted to have that like creepy overtone on the guitars now as well. So I think that's also helping it get that little bit heavier. Because I played like a lot of different styles of music. Like, so I think that's kind of helping like a lot. Yeah, because I'll be like, okay, what's something in my head that's really creepy? And then I'll just kind of think of it and play and just like noodle around on the guitar. And next minute, there's an evil riff that I'm going to use later or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, you're talking about on your first album, like how you did like, you know, it was more happy and more major, but with the creepy lyrics on top. And then how, you know, this new writing is going like darker, and in both the, you know, the lyrics are still creepy, but then you're also writing with the darker sounds. What I think is like you can see both of that in horror, right? Like I'm thinking specifically, and I don't know why this is the one that's popped into my head, but in the first Insidious movie when that guy is singing Tiptoe Through the Window or whatever, and it's like this super happy song, but it's super creepy in the context of the film, and it's just like
that bit is actually like super creepy. I had to actually rewind it back because of the ghost that's in the window thing. Remember that when that's the part where it's coming out, and I was like, what was that? I'm like, oh, because it kind of like freaked me out. I was like, oh, and I love Insidious. That's such a good movie. It's like it's well known, but it's, in my opinion, it's underrated.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, what are movies that like, what are movies that have come out of like where you're from that like you would say you're not sure if we're missing out on that would have those kind of cool moments and stuff as well?
Oh, that's a tough one because there's some really good Aussie horrors, but they're not as good as like 80s American horror movie. Like everybody's seen probably like Wolf Creek and stuff like that, and there's actually a really good one. I'm not 100% sure if it's Australian. I'm pretty sure it is, but Boar's a really good movie. It's basically like Razorback.
Yeah. I haven't seen it, but like it's on like that was one of the movies on my list that I'm going through with I'm gonna be doing a thing where like I call up different artists and have them come on and we watch it and then talk about it. And that movie came up on the list. So
yeah, it's actually got Bill Moseley in it too. So, and I didn't even realize because I just bought it. I was like, I usually do that. I'll just go randomly buy horror movies and just check them out. And I didn't realize it had Bill Moseley in it. And I was like, oh, this has made it 10 times better.
For sure.
It's actually really good though. Like it's actually really good. Yeah.
Well, dang, now I'm excited, man. So how would you say that like horror or your different musical influences have affected the way that you write the lyrics and the maybe even the melody to your lyrics for your project?
Ooh, that's a hard one. It kind of just comes like naturally. Like sometimes I'll write the lyrics first and I'll just try and do a lot of rhymes and near rhymes and stuff like that. And then because I write so simply on the guitar, you could kind of put anything to it. Like I couldn't say that like, you know, the first riff I make and then will be the one. So I write like a lot of songs and then like that no one's heard. I probably got like 100 and something songs that the album could have been, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I just wanted it to be very old school. So I took a lot out and I've still got a lot that I could use. And I do that a lot. I'll go back and I'll be like, oh, that was a cool riff. That works good with this part, you know,
Mhm.
and then I'll kind of like blend them together. Or yeah, it's kind of hard. Like music comes naturally sometimes, and when you're writing and playing, it seems to flow. You just know that it's right when you get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
No, I definitely do. Like one of the things that you were talking about was like how you have so many songs that like didn't make the cut. I've started a habit where like I'm personally writing the lyrics to one song every night, whether it's gonna see the light of day or not. I'm doing it and getting
mm,
that practice in so that I can like personally get, better at the writing process and knowing, when something's good or not. And I've noticed a lot of the bands that I've interviewed, they either do that or they will do into like a voice recorder. They'll like sing the lyrics or whatever. But in any case, they're doing something. They're recording a riff or they're doing whatever, and they're creating this big bank that they can pull from so that even if they're like, oh, I don't have any good ideas today. They're like, well, yeah, I do. They just flip through their bank and they've got like 400 songs that they, haven't worked on. And they're like, all right, time to pull it out. Let's go.
yeah. And like I listen back to the instrumentals that I when I do make them,
Hmm.
and I will just flow over certain lyrics. Like,
Hmm.
um, damn, actually, there was one song that hasn't technically been released properly. Like I did do it at one point, but then I was like, nah, because I wasn't too sure if I wanted to do that like heavier style.
Hmm.
And it's called Rotten Pieces. Rotten
Hmm.
Pieces. And I used those lyrics that were like I just cut them up and used different parts that I just recently made and
Hmm.
threw that song together. And it's actually one of my favorite songs, like now.
Hmm.
And I'm like, it's really quite fun to play each part of that song because it's so easy on guitar, but the lyrics are like you can tell it's a serial killer. He's cutting people up and hiding their bodies and kind of stuff like that. And it
Hmm.
kind of like has a story to it now.
Hmm.
But a lot of those lyrics were like from years ago,
Yeah,
years ago
yeah.
when I first started, kind of stuff. Like, and yeah, it ended up being one of my favorite songs. And I think I made it in E tuning and now it's in drop C. So that'll
That's
probably
funny
come
how
out
that
in
works like
December.
over time. Yeah. We've talked a little bit about the history of the music, how things got started and everything. And we've talked a little bit about your writing process. And we've also touched a little bit on bands in your area that, you thought were good and deserved a little attention. Let's talk more on that. Like, because again, I'm over here in America. I'm in Idaho of all places, right? Like
Oh
there
yeah.
there is no scene here like whatsoever. So when I'm looking at things, bands that are popping up on the radar that I see online, like there's a reason they're making waves, but at the same time they're coming from scenes. They're usually not isolated bands, and they're coming from really strong scenes that are like, they've got their own developed sound and they've got everything, whether it's known outside of the area or not. That's just been my experience. So are there
Mm,
any bands that you've played with, whether they're in the horror genre or not, that you feel deserve a little extra attention and eyes on them?
absolutely. Kool-Aid Communion.
Mm.
We actually just did they just did a tour. And we jumped on their tour for like 3 shows, and I got to give those guys insane amount of props. They are such
Mm.
good showmen, awesome guys, great heavy music. Like it's not horror punk or anything like that, but
Hmm.
they're just such good guys and such good musicians. They
Mm.
killed it every night. Like I think the only problem was they had a little technical issue and that was it.
Hmm.
And it was sorted, but they were like super tight, super solid, and they
Mm.
haven't even been around that long, and they're just actually killing it. those guys were really fun to watch. It was like watching a big band, and that I respect those guys. They killed it, and they would definitely be someone I'd go see.
Okay,
Like,
okay, for sure.
yeah.
Okay.
Give those guys props. And Crypt Daddies. Crypt Daddies are really good too.
Let's talk a little bit about live performance, because you said you started this as a way of like raising money for charity and stuff like that, but on your own terms. And I've got to say, I've got mad respect for that. You know, you like a lot of people, they're like, oh, this is a cool idea or whatever, but at least you had like a purpose driving what you were doing, and you wanted to make it as fun and a challenge for you. So, you know, since you've been doing that, and since you've been playing live, how has that affected the way that you approach writing music? I know that you said that you're working with a band now, but how has playing live affected your perception of how you would construct a set list, or how you would even approach an album going forward in the future?
So for live, it's just we just have as much fun as possible. Like,
Yeah.
it hasn't really changed my perspective or perception on doing the charity stuff, because I still do that even for the band and with the band. There's actually like a good friend from New Zealand, Brent Agnew. He usually helps us and supports us, and sometimes I'll be like, here, have a free shirt, and he'll put it towards charity and stuff like that. Writing style, we just have as much fun as possible with it now. We were actually, me and my drummer were just talking the other day about it. We just want to have as much fun as possible and make good songs that people enjoy and that we enjoy, because, you know, no one wants to go on stage and play songs you don't have fun doing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Have you noticed when you've been playing live, that musicians interact with different types of, or sorry, that fans interact with different types of songs in different ways? Like, have you ever noticed that when you write a certain type of song, like it'll be like, okay, this is like the Circle Pit song, or this is like, you know, the Lighters Come Out song or whatever. And I know you said like everything you guys do is you just like write for fun, you know, however that goes. But I'm what I'm curious about is like, since you've been live, and you know, how has live performance influenced the way you think about writing songs, in that
Okay.
like, do you still just write it for whatever's good, or is there any intentionality between, we're going to write the Lighters Out song, we're going to write the Circle Pit song, or you know what I'm saying?
We kind of just go for whatever's good, honestly.
Okay.
Though there is major differences between certain songs. Like, there are songs that people will just sing back to us, and then there's songs that make people go a bit crazy. Kill the Preachers is definitely one of the songs where people get moving, and will scream the lyrics back at us and go a bit crazy. I love playing that song purely because it's good to see people just go wild and have fun.
Yeah.
Where like there's songs like The Night of Living Dead where people will just sing the lyrics back to us, and they'll move, but they'll just be like more like wanting to watch that song in particular. Same with Day of the Dead. That one's a bit of both. People will sing it, but they'll also move.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, yeah. Because like talking with different bands, like, you know, sometimes when a band starts, they don't think about any of that stuff. And I think most bands don't, right? Like, especially in the punk scene, they're just like, let's just write what we like and write what we love. But then you notice as they like are developing and going forward, that their writing style changes. And I know that part of that for you guys is, like you said, there's a lot of metal in your scene and a lot of stuff like that. Your drummer's big into metal. And so for you guys, you know, Possessed is like a noticeable shift in the way you write. And I was just kind of curious if like you had picked up any of that kind of stuff when like watching other bands in the scene, or you know what I mean?
Uh, with that song, it was kind of actually easier for me to write because I guess I'm into a lot of bands like Static X and
Yeah.
heavier bands and black metal bands as well. And I kind of it was a little bit easier. Like, I don't have to really, you know, push my vocals to a point where I could get gassed out, or it doesn't really happen with the punk stuff because it flows really well the way I read it. So with this, it kind of gives me even more breaks. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't have to really exert myself so hard.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I guess in a way, but other bands playing, everybody's different here. Like, there's some bands that'll just be like full on like slam metal, and they'll just be like doing gutturals the whole time. I'm just like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Because I'd be on the floor after 2 songs. You know, I'm like,
Mhm.
that kind of stuff mind blows me. But yeah, I don't know. I just write mainly because I write and play guitar. That helps a lot, like with the
Okay.
writing process part out. Yeah. So I don't really have to go like and stress about the next part. And actually, there's a really good interview that Doyle did,
Mm.
and he says it doesn't matter how good the riff is. If it's too hard to play and I'm going to come up to that part and it's going to give me anxiety, I'll scrap it. I have that same mentality.
That's smart. Yeah, yeah. And because I think it translates from the recording to the music when you're performing live, right? Like if you can't do it live, then when you go to move it into I mean, there are times when it's appropriate to
Mhm.
like do the like studio thing and add that in. But I think that like especially for punk bands, like when you're playing, that kind of music, the tighter you are and the closer you are to the record, like that's just a cool experience, like all the way around. Because people they're listening to it on the record for so long and they're like, oh, I know this song, and then they come and see it live and there isn't that that missing part or that missing guitar or whatever. So I really appreciate that. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's actually one thing that we also do as well. We try to sound like the album. Like in between songs, yeah, we can have a little bit of like fun, like
Yeah.
messing with the crowd, or like because I love it when people hate you. I love it
Hmm.
when people hate you, or they want to like heckle you, because then I can like be cheeky to them and stuff like that. Them kind of moments are like the memorable moments for me. But then
Hmm.
they just like get back into it the second the song starts, and it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, that was funny, and
Hmm.
I'll think about that later. But yeah, we try to sound exactly like the album or as close as possible. It's a little harder because I've had to have like a couple fill-in people because
Hmm.
our bassist, my partner is my bassist, and she had the baby 3 months ago, so a year and some change. We haven't really had her there,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I had to kind of like fill in parts and stuff like that, which has been really a good experience because then you get to work with more people and
Mm.
get an idea on how you want to do things later for shows. Because I kind of I like having a theatrical kind of show where it's
Hmm.
like, I want to give people a little bit of something to remember later. Like that's why I made my mic stand. My mic stand's crazy. I pull off a skull and I pull out a brain. It's actually right here. It's actually right next to me. See if I can
Oh,
move it over so you can see. So it's there.
oh, that's rad.
Yeah. So I usually have like fingers and stuff like that inside of it, and I'll throw them out to people. But usually the brain goes in there and it all lights up. It's got like big spider legs on it, and I'll have that down. And like halfway through the song "Brains," I'll just like pull it out, pull the brain out, and kind of have a moment there, like
Hmm.
And that I didn't have that opportunity until I had a fill-in guitarist to do the parts that I usually play. I was like, yeah, that's fun. Keep doing that kind of stuff and kind of evolving the shows as well, but still sounding the same as the album.
Thank you so much for coming on. Before we wrap up here, I just want to say I really appreciate you taking the time. We've been working on getting this interview going for a while behind the scenes, and I really appreciate it. Are there any events coming up, or are there any is there anything on social media that you want to shout out to draw people's attention to that, even if they can't come see you live because they're like me in Idaho, or if they're in the United Kingdom or whatever, where do you want them to go to listen to your music? And where do you like what's the best way that people outside of the country can support you, and what's the best way people inside your country can support you?
People inside our country can definitely come see our shows.
Mm.
Got our original bassist coming back now, so she's going to be doing shows. So now we can start actually looking because I really wanted her to come back, so I
Yeah.
can have that original lineup. People overseas, definitely like Spotify. We're on every streaming platform there is. I think we're on Bandcamp. You can buy our merch online as well. Basically, that's how you can support us. If we like follow us on Facebook and stuff like that, that'd be cool. Well, actually, I post a lot of stuff there, like where to get our merch, when our next shows are coming up, who we're going to be playing with. I'm not too fussed if like people don't come. I still have fun either way. It's a great show. It's usually a fun time. But support the other bands that we're going with, and then maybe you'll like us, kind of thing. You know, I don't ever stress about that kind of thing. I've got too much going on. You know,
For
if
sure.
people come, they come. Usually we bring a crowd. We usually bring a crowd anyways. And people who like us, they'll find us. You know, we all do.
For sure.
Everyone in the scene of horror punk and all that, we kind of all know each other to some extent.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know?
I've noticed that like sorry to digress here for a minute. I've noticed like how tight the community is, whether it's, you know, it is an international scene online, right? Like it really is starting to become that. Most of the bands that I've found are in a few couple locations. They're mostly in America and mostly in and mostly out of Europe, specifically Germany, which I don't understand, but I mean, good for Germany, I guess. And then like the United Kingdom, I would say is the second best, or not best, second like most like prevalent. Australia and New Zealand, and Canada are kind of like right after that, and then it's like Spanish speaking countries like all the way down, which I think is cool. Like, you know, even though I can't understand the you know, the lyrics in it, I think it's kind of cool how like the scene is really becoming that kind of international force.
I actually agree. Like the scene online it's incredible. Like, and people are so good. Like they're good to you as well. Like they would give the shirt off their back for you kind of support, you know?
Yeah.
And it is so vast as well. Like you're right. America's like number one when it comes to it because there's so many bands over there that have a scene. And like I want that, you know, over here, which is another driving force for me to do it, because I want people to start going, hey, that band was cool. Let's do it ourselves. You know,
for sure.
Start your own scene, start your own band. It's fun. You can't go wrong. It's like Halloween every day, every show.
For sure,
you know?
For sure. So are there any shows that are going to be coming up around the time this interview airs?
We haven't got any booked yet, but we've been offered. It's just working time. Like it's really hard to get, because I work. My partner's still on leave, and my drummer is working at the moment too. So trying to find time off to be able to get these shows and to book them. But yeah, it's been a mission. It's like a second job.
Yeah.
Like you put in a lot of time for it, and it kind of wears you at some points and sometimes of it, especially when you're lugging around like massive cabs and amps, and then you got to wait around for like 4 hours, 5 hours, and then you're like the second band on, or like, and then it's like 2 o'clock when you leave and you got to go to work the next day. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard work, but it's fun. It's worth it. But it's just finding time. But we are actually looking for shows probably after October, just because my drummer, he broke his hand about 2 months ago, and he's still kind of recovering. We're just kind of waiting until he's at a good spot. My partner's at a good spot, and like I'm always ready to go. Like I keep myself nice and healthy so I can do everything I got to do. Yeah, I hope more shows are going to come our way really soon. If not, I'm going to just start booking them.
Well, I know you mentioned earlier that, you know, your partner just had a baby recently, and I kind of like processed that and didn't say anything. So on behalf of everyone on the show, congratulations, you guys. Like, that's really awesome. And,
thank you.
And we wish you guys all the best of luck.
Yeah, thank you so much. He will follow in my footsteps, I hope.
All right. Thank you so much for staying to the end of the episode. I really appreciate it. My name is William Hamilton, and I've been the host of this episode of Heartfelt Horror here on the Heartfelt Horror Media Network channel. We really do appreciate you guys staying to the end of these videos. While you're here, if you wouldn't mind leaving a like on the video, subscribing to our channel, leaving a comment down below, these little things really do go a long way to helping us, get our name out there and get our show out into the algorithm so other people like you can find us. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, we'd really appreciate it. Also, if you're looking for other ways to support the show, we have a Patreon. The link for that is going to be down here. You can copy that into the search bar and you'll find our page. Our Patreon is for $5 a month. For $5 a month, you're going to be able to help us buy all sorts of new equipment. You're going to help us be able to save up for different kind of developmental processes that we're going to be using to bring you new and different kinds of content besides these interviews. So if that sounds like something that interests you, please consider it. Again, it'll be $5 and the link to the Patreon is going to be down there below. So thank you so much for your time and have a nice day. Bye.